Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK Unlimited, we're going to be showing you how to install the Roadmaster battery charge line kit for towed vehicles. But before we do that, why don't we check it out and explain to you what this is going to do and how it's going to help your flat tow situation. So when it comes to flat towing a vehicle, a charge line kit like this one here is something I always recommend, regardless of the make and model, you know, for Jeeps, Fords, everything in between. And I say that because what happens is whenever you're flat towing your vehicle, your supplemental braking system is going to use power from your Jeep's battery. And so every time you hit the brakes, you know, that braking system on the Jeep is going to activate, take a little bit of juice. So what can happen is over time, you know, if you're on a trip for 4, 6, 8+ hours, and you're constantly, you know, stealing a little bit of juice from the battery, what can happen is you get to where you're going, try to start the Jeep, and it's dead. You know, and then you got to go through the trouble of charging the battery, maybe getting a jump start, you know, pulling out your jumper cables, all that. And all that can be avoided by using a charge line kit. So what this is going to do is essentially trickle charge your battery or maintain it whenever you're flat towing it behind your motorhome. So that way, whenever you get to where you're going, you're gonna have the confidence to know that, hey, I can turn my key, my Jeep's gonna fire right up, and I can continue on about my business. The way this charge line kit works is super simple. Essentially, whenever you have your tow bar wiring plugged into the front of your Jeep and into the back of your motorhome, it's going to use your motorhome's 12-volt auxiliary power at the back of its 7-way to take some amperage, come through your connector plug here, and then your wiring will be connected to the back of this. Then amperage will flow up through the wiring to a circuit breaker. And what this does is keeps the circuit protected. Obviously, if you have any issues, it'll trip and you're not going to burn anything up or whatever. And that power is going to go to your battery. And so that's where this battery is going to receive power. And it's not a big deal because on your motorhome, obviously when it's running, it's generating its own surplus electricity through the alternator and its charging system. And so it's not going to drain your motorhome's batteries or anything like that. With that said though, on your motorhome, check and make sure that your 7-way does have a 12-volt auxiliary power. Generally speaking, a lot of the late model ones will have it. Some of the older ones might not. It's kind of hit and miss. But obviously you're going to need that power source from your motorhome for this to work, right? If yours doesn't have it, we actually offer wiring kits that you can hook up to your motorhome to allow you to get that power back here and make everything work. With that said as well, you know, the battery in your Jeep is going to have to be in good condition for it to work properly. You know, this isn't going to bring a bad battery back from the dead or anything like that. So as long as, you know, everything's in good working condition, it's going to stay that way. And that's because it's going to keep that battery topped off. And not to mention too, that's going to extend the life of your battery, you know, by maintaining it as opposed to depleting it down maybe 50%, and then, you know, the vehicle might still start, but then you're bringing that charging cycle back up, and you know, it depletes the life of the battery overall. So by keeping it maintained, it'll hopefully save you, you know, another year or two from having to switch your battery out. Compared to some of the other charge line kits available, we offer the Brake Buddy charge line kit as well as the Demco. And they're all going to work just fine. I've had good luck with all of them. Regardless of which one you use, it doesn't matter what braking system you have or anything like that. So for example, just because this is a Roadmaster charge line kit, it doesn't mean you have to have a Roadmaster braking system. That holds true with all those kits I just mentioned, because it doesn't care. You know, its only job is to maintain or charge up your battery. The Roadmaster one, I'm a fan of it. We've done a lot of these, really haven't ran into any issues. Another one I like is that Demco one, and I say that because that one has a fuse and a diode instead of a circuit breaker. And so what happens is if you do, you know, run into an issue, it'll pop that fuse and it'll kill power until you change the fuse. These circuit breakers are essentially heat activated, so when they trip, as soon as they cool down, they'll start to work again. Is it a huge deal? Not really. I just kind of like the thought if there's a problem, that fuse will trip, and it's not going to work until you look at it and start messing with it, figuring out the issue. But like I said, I've done a lot of these and yet to run into a problem, so you'll probably be in pretty good shape regardless. But other than that, you know, it's a must-have in my opinion. Keeps the battery charged up, keeps your electrical system operating as it should, and everything else. So really a no-brainer when it comes to a flat toe setup. As far as the installation goes, really not bad at all. We have one wire we need to run down to the 6-way connector, hook it up to a breaker, and right up to the battery. So really shouldn't take up a bunch of your time or give you a lot of issues. So if you want to see how that's done, feel free to stick around. We'll go ahead and do that together now. To begin our installation, to get our charge line on our Jeep here, we're going to be at the front, and you are going to have to remove your 6-way round wiring connector. I do suggest if you're putting your charge line on, doing this at the same time, right? Just while you have everything apart, makes it a little bit easier. But that said, I took one end of our red wire, just fed it through the dust cap and through our connector bracket there. The end of it, we're going to strip back the insulation a little bit, give those wires a good twist. It's a little long, I'll shorten it up some. It'll be about right. And then we'll grab our connector plug. The back of it here, we're going to be using the pin in the center. So we'll loosen up our set screw and put that wire in. We'll tighten that set screw down. And then from there, you can simply just reattach your bracket, put your dust cover back over. What I like to do, once all this is done, we have our diode wiring done, our charge line done, we know everything works, I like to come back and seal everything up and use some dielectric grease or some sealant to prevent any corrosion. But for the time being, I'm going to leave it like this until we verify everything works here in a little while. So now underneath the vehicle, we need to route our charge line up into the engine compartment. So right here, it's kind of where it comes out of our connector plug. And then I just have it running along some wire loom here. That's going to be kind of tricky to see from down here, but it runs straight up into the engine compartment. When you're routing this, do your best to keep everything secured and avoid any hot or moving parts. So the charge line wire is going to come up right through here. Might be kind of tricky to see, but I kind of just routed it along through here, around our fuse box, and over here by our battery. We need to mount up our breaker, and I'm going to mount it right here to this piece of plastic. It's pretty solid. There's nothing behind it. Obviously, you don't want to drill into anything that can be damaged. So right here is a pretty good spot. We're going to do that using a couple of the provided self-tapping screws. And before we do that, we're going to kind of prep our breaker. We're just going to remove the nut setter on it. It should be a little bit easier on us here in a minute. So I'll grab my tool here and a screw. Get it lined up where we want it and secure it into place. So this wire that's going to our 6-way connector, that's going to go to this brass colored post. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball the length here and cut that wire, and we're going to strip it back. Give it a good twist. And then we can take one of the small ring terminals, slide it over the bare end of the wire, and crimp it down. Just slide that ring terminal over the post. Take our nut and get it started. For the remaining portion, we had about, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches of wire left. I stripped back both ends. One end I crimped on the big ring terminal, other end the small ring terminal. Small one's gonna go over your silver post. We'll take our nut there. Get that started. And with both of these started now, I'm going to tighten them up. So I have a 3/8 socket. Snug them down. And then we can hook our big ring terminal to one of the battery posts. Doesn't really matter which one. I'll probably just go with this one right here since it's the closest. So we'll break that nut loose using a 10mm. Take a ring terminal, place it over the stud. We'll just tighten the nut back down.
And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster battery charge line kit for towed vehicles on our 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK Unlimited.